If you look at the lines of work, I kind of break it out into three verticals or three buckets. The first is kind of national security and sovereignty. The second line of work is what I refer to as economic nationalism. The third, broadly, line of work is what is deconstruction of the administrative state.
So President Trump's chief strategist, Steve Bannon, speaking at CPAC on Thursday, appearing in public for the first time since the inauguration. So joining me now to talk about all of this, we have Jonathan Alter, MSNBC political analyst and Dale East columnist. Carrie Lucas joining as well, managing director of the Independent Women's Forum. Great to have you both with me. And Carrie, let's start with Bannon's message about the deconstruction of the administrative state. What does that mean?
Well, this is going to be a message that really resonates with a lot of Americans. And when you talk about one of the biggest problems that's been facing our economy is the overregulation. I think that everybody out there, particularly anybody who's tried to run a small business or been involved in kind of these kind of this red tape, we know that there's too much red tape out there, and we need to roll some of this back and try to embrace more common sense approach. This will unleash the jobs and just create a whole lot new opportunities for people. So that's a big winner, not just with Republicans and those at CPAC, but I think with Americans everywhere.
And so, Jonathan, is that also kind of in the same bucket of economic nationalism?
No, they're two different buckets, as he explained, but just on this idea of, quote, deconstruction of the administrative state, I think Bill Maher put it really well on HBO last night, you know, when he said that that's like a guy is working at Quiznos and he says, I'm gonna burn this place down where I work. It's basically saying we are running the government and we are going to disassemble, deconstruct major elements of the government. Now, there's nothing wrong with some deregulation. That can be healthy, and it can contribute, to helping some industries. But it's not a cure-all for job growth by any means. And also, you don't want to disassemble the government. A lot of these regulations protect the health and safety of the American people.
Carrie, do you think it really is a panacea? Deregulation is really a panacea to job growth?
It's not a panacea, but let's remember what we're talking about here. There is a big problem in terms of the administrative state. That's agencies which are not elected by the American people. They're just given the power to essentially write laws. What a lot of Republicans have. Jonathan, let me finish. No, but they are not. But they are not always. You look at what's happened with the EPA. You look at what happened with the EPA under President Obama, and them just writing the most sweeping environmental regulations in modern history. This was the Clean Power Plan, which would have had massive consequences on the economy, and really just was a big power grab. Yes, it would have. It was a tremendous power grab. We should all, Jonathan, particularly, you think liberals would recognize that we want power to be where the people have a say. That's with our elected branches of Congress, not with whoever happens to be in the EPA.
So then, Carrie, you would stand against the executive order that was written by Steve Bannon that included him basically to be with a permanent seat on the National Security Council. He's not elected to anything.
Well, I think we should get back to trying to restore this idea that Congress is meant to write the laws and make very clear what the laws are supposed to be, and the executive branch is supposed to be enforcing the laws.
You would be against Steve Bannon being involved in that executive order that Donald Trump really wasn't that well.
I think there's been, I don't know enough about that particular executive order, but I think we have gone too far. President Obama used executive orders and said, a pen and a phone, how cool, I can write law. That's not what our Constitution said.
We've just gotten through a period. In the last month, the new president hasn't done anything except sign executive orders.
You're right. That's a problem.
Law passed, so he's going against what you're just saying. But the idea, we're not talking about common sense regulation. When Steve Bannon went to CPAC, he was talking about disassembling major chunks of the U.S. government. The people didn't vote for that in the last election. That's a very radical agenda. And when he talks about economic nationalism, that's code for trade barriers, a trade war, which will cost, according to most economists, many of them conservative, 4, 5, 6 million jobs.
But Jonathan, we know that President Trump did run on a trade war.
Yes,
he wanted to bring everything home. He was against TPP. He was against NAFTA. And he thought that that was a winning strategy to people who have felt affected by job loss, and that this was going to help them, bottom line, in their wallets, which is mainly what people talk about.
There's a difference between some real problems with TPP and NAFTA, which I think people in both parties agree on, and getting into erecting these trade barriers, which is what economic nationalism means. The problem, Thomas, is other countries retaliate, and then we have a trade war. Suddenly everybody loses, and many of the conservatives in that room understand that, because they are free traders, but they're so corrupted by their grasping for power that they applaud somebody who is saying something against everything they've stood for, free trade.
Every action will have an opposite and equal reaction. There will be consequences, but we'll see. The joint session of Congress, the address from President Trump, will be on Tuesday night. I wish we had more time. Carrie, as always, great to see you. Jonathan, as always, we get pushed against the clock. Thank you for your time.